Welcome to Tales from College Football. This season I'll be pondering college football what-ifs, where we'll take glimpses into alternate realities and explore how the world of college football might have unfolded differently. I'm your host, Brandon Peterson. Something on the mind of college football fans each week is what uniforms are their favorite teams going to wear. Oregon Ducks are a prime example of this. Back in 2012, it was calculated they could wear 9,984 unique uniform combinations. Benefits of Phil Knight being a supportive alum, I guess. Uniforms are fun because they provide a lot of fun debates. Is a particular uniform lucky or unlucky? Do we prefer futuristic or throwback? Is chrome better than digi camo? Whose uniform are you getting to wear this season? Are you going to get the uniform of a current player? Well, what if they hit the portal, or what if they change their number? Then you might go with the legend instead. College football uniforms are a wonderful balance of form and function. They protect the athletes, which is nice, but they're also instrumental for storytelling. Look at Army versus Navy. Each detail dedicated to characteristics of a particular division of the branch of military that they're honoring. Where would college football be today without the uniforms? How far back would we need to go to find the answer to this question? Well, a long way back. This week I'll ask, what if Harvard and Yale didn't wear uniforms in 1875 on the birth of the game? In the early days of college football, there weren't matching uniforms. Teams dressed with mismatched colors, clothing, and gear. It's not like you could go to a local athletic outfitter and get some protective equipment for a sport that was still being invented. In this case, the game was possibly being invented while the match was still happening. Harvard would contact Yale to play a game of rugby, but Yale's captain had never played the game. So the schools made a compromise to play a game that combined the rules of soccer with rugby rules. Makes sense. Yale wanted to play the game with 11 players, but in this concessionary game, it would be played with 15 instead. Harvard would end up winning the game 4-0, and it was noted that there were several protests from players, spectators, and officials over the interpretation of the rules. While this game may have been wild to watch and hard to follow, one thing was for certain. The two teams were actually easy to tell apart. And it's because this game is what several sport historians consider to be the initial uniform wearing competition of the sport. Without team uniforms, we wouldn't have had the famous 1905 Thanksgiving Day matchup between Drake and Iowa State, where the numbers were painted on the sewn canvas shields on the back of their shirts. Drake would wear numbers 1 through 25, and Iowa State would wear numbers 26 through 50. Coaches like Alonzo Stagg early on were very weary of this practice because they thought it would make it easier for teams to scout and identify opponents of teams, but eventually became in favor of it as it would be beneficial for the fans to know who they're watching on the field and who they're cheering for. We also would miss out on the era of World War I, Indiana experimenting with their jersey identification by using letters for their front seven. They used letters that spelled out Indiana. Now I know, 2 I's, 2 N's, and 2 A's. Maybe not the most useful to spectators, but it probably looked cool from the stadium when they were lined up in formation. With less fan engagement and ways to identify players, we wouldn't have had the early radio broadcast of West Virginia versus Pitt in 1921, or the televised game between Fordham and Waynesburg College in 1939. If you weren't at the games, you would have to rely on newspaper for what happened, and you might not even have an interest to follow a team or go to a game, as crazy as that sport was to watch early on. The sport would fail to capture the imagination with rising stars and legendary performances, and would give way to boxing, cricket, and baseball much earlier, as these sports already were very popular early on and were easy to follow for spectators. Even if the sport endured, we wouldn't see the sights and colors that we associate with our teams today. Without uniforms in the 1875 Harvard-Yale game, college football might have developed into a very different sport. Team identity, fan engagement, and even the structure of the game itself could have been delayed or altered. Uniforms became much more than a practical solution. They symbolize unity and the competitive spirit that defined college football. This small but crucial innovation helped elevate the sport from a rough, disorganized pastime into a spectacle that captured the hearts and fans across the country. Would college football be as iconic today if its players hadn't donned those first uniforms? Probably not, but in this alternate history, it's fascinating to consider what might have been. Thanks for listening to Tales from College Football with your host, Brandon Peterson. Tune in every other week as new what-ifs will be discussed from our favorite sport. Be sure to reach out and share your thoughts and ideas with me on X, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and TikTok at Code Peterson. You can also check out my website, codepeterson.com.